I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Thursday, January the 6th, brought to you in part by Norbrook. The wide availability of Norbrook's generic products offers livestock veterinarians and producers more convenient and economical solutions to managing their healthcare needs of their livestock. It's not just a fly-by-night company. They've been founded for over 50 years, one of the largest livestock pharmaceutical companies in the world. For more information, go to norbrook.com. Cattle trade's active on Wednesday, very active. They traded cattle in the feedlots on a direct basis. We had a lot of big feeder cattle auctions all over the country, and pretty brisk trade, really. The board was down just a little bit more from the big down it was on Tuesday, but you know, the world's not coming to an end yet. But as we move further into this week, the whole industry has had some time to absorb the action plan or virtual meeting that Mr. Magoo had on Monday. And you know, there's been a lot of talk about that. Your major media has been trying to address it, but they have no idea what they're talking about at all. And what scares you is whenever they get into something like talking about this, which is our industry, and your major media starts talking about it, and we realize that they have no clue and evidently don't take the time to go in and research it and find out about it. Then we get to wondering, are they that lost on everything that they talk about? The things that we don't know anything about, that we look to them to tell us about? Are they that lost on all of them? But watching major media try to cover that, I mean, they don't have an idea even what they're talking about. And every time they bring somebody on that is an expert in it, they're trying to drive some kind of an agenda. And so you don't really get you know, the full measure of what people are trying to talk about. But Justin Tupper, my buddy that's vice president of U.S. Cattlemen's Association, he was on Newsmax and talked about it. He was struggling to try to tell the story as they were trying to force an agenda on him. Bill Bullard, the ruler of RCAF, he was on Fox News. Same thing pretty much happened to him too. But it's very frustrating to try to get the word out to people about what that was all about. But you know, we discussed it, and basically the Biden administration is trying to use you know, your meat products, not just beef, but also pork and poultry, as a scapegoat for the unbelievable inflation that's happened since he took office. Now, yes, there has been a lot of inflation, and yeah, there's been a lot of it in your meat and poultry products, okay? So all these things that he's wanting to do with it, there's tons and tons of money out there that with all that money that they printed, that they've put out there for the COVID, they don't know how to spend it. They're going to throw $1 billion at this, mostly with grants and loans and things like that, to try to get it pushed through. You know, it's hard telling if it's going to do any good or not. Now, we did hear Biden endorse the compromise bill. So hopefully we'll get the compromise bill pushed through. We're waiting on you know, our lawmakers to go ahead and bring that up for debate and for vote. I would say all your Democrats would vote for it right now, if because you know, their leadership has said that they're behind that. So to get that deal done pretty fast while the iron's hot. We don't hear NCBA saying anything about it. If they said anything about it, then they would be more apt to have to push it through. After we go here in less than a month, they're going to have their conference and going to be voting on things, because they have exhausted that 75% of a robust market deal. So now they have to get behind something, either legislatively or you know, regulatory, that will entice or force packers to participate in more negotiated trade. Why not just do the one that's already been endorsed by the president, and we're ready to get it through anyway? But they're not saying anything about it, really, not really doing their job as they should be, letting the two smallest of the three trade associations be the ones to come out there and talk to the media about it. But it's if they're throwing all this money at these independents and these startup plants, packing plants on the beef side is what I'm going to talk about, is they're going to give them some money, they're going to help them get going. And so this likely means that pretty much all the ones that we've heard rumored about are probably going to open. So we'll sure have that one in St. Louis. We'll have the one in North Platte. We'll have the one up there in northwest Iowa. And I haven't heard any more about the one in the Texas Panhandle, but I think the money was there for them to do that too. Now that they've got access to all these other funds, you would think they would go ahead and do it. It would be nice, and I've always said this about the government, it would be nice whenever they throw money at something if different levels of government and some of these, like these independent plants that qualify for the grants, if they could have they have to spend that money. It'd be nice if they could have a savings account, because I fear, well I know, but I fear it too, that when these independents and these new startup plants get going, and once they've spent all the money, and they've spent all the money that it takes to get it built, which is going to be super expensive the way things are right now, and you can't get any parts and pieces, and you can't get any help to do anything. But once they get these plants up and running, I tell you what, these big four they're going to pull every dirty trick on them there is, and they won't be above losing money for a couple of 3 years if they need to rub them out. And they're going to be super tough on the buyers of the product. And so if some of these startups, these independents that are getting going and taking some of this money, could hold some of that money back to get through there. I think if they could make it through the first couple 3 years, then they could be good enough to go forward. But then guess what? Then your big four is going to come along and want to buy them. If any of these plants take any money there, they ought to make it where the big four can't come in and buy them up. That's how they've gotten so big anyway, is just coming in and picking up some of the smaller outfits that had a good thing going. And they also want their brand name too, because sometimes people resist those big four names out there. But it's going to be interesting to see as this goes forward. It looks like they may indeed make some more rules. Said they've got a short time here, only a little over a month to set up a hotline where people can come in and blow the whistle on some of these anti-competitive acts that the big four packers are doing. Well, that's all good and fine, but if you don't enforce those rules, it's not going to do any good. So you actually got to enforce them. Hell, they don't even want to enforce people that are committing armed robbery in broad daylight on camera anymore. How are they going to enforce a big major corporate packer that's really bigger comparably to the government? How are they going to enforce any of the rules on them? That's one thing that worries me a little bit there. But let's talk about the board for Wednesday. February live cattle futures were down 57 cents, 137 and a quarter, which made for a basis in the Southern Plains trading at 138 and caused them to trade just a little bit faster, picking up that 75 cents there on their hedges. April down 72 cents at 141.95. Go on your back months, and some of them were up, not significantly, but more than 1 or 2 months were up there. But your back months on your live cattle futures were down 65 cents to up 65 cents. Feeder cattle for January was down 55 at 162.12. Still trading at a premium to what your real-time index is, which is up to date and current through Wednesday's sales there, sitting at 161.35 about. So don't get so worried about that spot January feeder cattle going down, because it's still trading at a premium to what your average of 8-weight steers are bringing throughout the middle part of the country. March feeder cattle down just 17 cents at 166.17, and then all your back months of feeder cattle were from steady to 67 cents higher. So it wasn't a complete bust. Now your grains were down pretty hard after they shot up big with fund buying there on Tuesday, but March corn was down 7.25 cents, but still over $6 a bushel at 602.25. Kansas City hard red winter wheat, March was down 17 at 787. Beans were up again a little bit, but not too much, up 5 cents at 13.94. They're roughly $14 a bushel now on your beans, guys. Bean products, which we use a lot of those, not necessarily the beans, but the bean products in their rations are going to be extremely high, and it's just going to cost a lot to feed these cattle. Fat cattle trade did become active on Wednesday, and your totals on confirmed sales are going to be bigger than what shows here because they were trading in the afternoon after they already turned that information in by 2 o'clock. But Iowa had confirmed sales of 6,400 head, selling from 138 to 140. 220 was the only dress price that we saw in the Northern Plains at all, and everything was at 220. Now those prices are going to be steady to a couple bucks lower, but your weighted average in your 5-area feeding region is not going to be that much lower because we had so much 138 trade last week in the Southern Plains, and we're going to have a lot of it this week too. Nebraska, almost 12,000 head confirmed on Wednesday, just like Iowa, 138 to 140. I will say the 140 was pretty well reserved just to your regional plants. And a lot of 138, 138 and a half. Didn't hear much 139, but your weighted average is going to be right around that 138. But 220 also dressed, and not a lot of dress trade there, but 220, and that's going to be a little bit weaker too. But Kansas and Texas, Kansas confirmed sales of 2,500, Texas 3,500, and they were all at 138, and that's steady. That's the same as they got late last week there around New Year's. Box beef cutout values were up again just a little bit, but just kind of staying moderately firm every day. Choice cuts 266.93 up 11 cents. Selects 259.61 up 38. Your slaughter is kind of disappointing, and a lot of that's due to the COVID fears and the outbreaks, especially back east where we saw that happen, but also because of weather in some places. There have been some weather interruptions in your slaughter, but 340,000 through Wednesday. That's 18,000 less than last week, which was basically a holiday week, and 8,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. DV Auction, my employer, and the ones that make all of this possible here with the Feeder Flash. Our bread and butter is our production sales, replacement stock, breeding stock sales. And we do more of those than all the rest of them put together, guys. And there's a reason that we do more of them, because we have more registered buyers. Whenever you book a sale with DV Auction to sell your bulls or your replacement quality heifers or your bred females, you're going to automatically just have more access to buyers that have been buying breeding stock for many years, and they're dependable and their check's good and all that kind of thing. But DV Auctions production sale report for the month of December is in now in December, and that's not a big month for us. We had 7,200 bids in production sales. We're not talking about our weekly auction sales. We do a lot of those too. This would be a whole lot bigger if it was that, but in the production sales, 1,400 lots were sold in the month of December on DV Auction console, and about $7.8 million worth of cattle in our production sales. So it's getting time to start thinking about that. We'll be getting really busy here once we get into February, March, and April on these production sales. If you haven't had DV Auction come do your sale before, we can do it. We can do it on site. We'll take the bids right there. We're going to be 10 guys trying to bid online all at the same time. We'll have no problem with it, guys. But get a hold of us at DV Auction, and we can sure book your sale. How about what's going on in your feeder cattle auctions? Joplin Regional Stockyards got a big value-added calf sale here today on Thursday, about 6,000 of them on offer. I heard that over 90% of them are going to be 60 days weaned. I mean, weaned and turned out. And then the other 10 is going to be sure 45 days weaned. But, you know, those will be as good or as close to yearlings as you can find. And then as soon as that value-added sale is over, which it won't last very long because they'll be selling big strings of them, and you can get on to dvauction.com, view and bid that sale. They'll start, you know, sure by 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and then they'll get right on them, and they'll have big strings on there. But as soon as that's over, Primetime Livestock Video through Joplin Regional Stockyards is going to be having a sale, and they've got several nice lots of cattle on offer there. On Friday, South Coffeyville Stockyards there in South Coffeyville, Oklahoma, they are going to have a big sale. They've got 3,000 head on offer in the ring, and then they're going to have their in-house video sale that they do with DV Auction at the conclusion of that. They got about 26 loads on their video, so be sure and check out South Coffeyville Stockyards. I'm going to be traveling out to Nevada, be first of two special feeder cattle auctions there at Nevada Livestock Marketing in Fallon, Nevada. Jack Payne, talked to him. He said there's going to be 3,000 to 4,000 head for this sale coming up on Friday. Got a lot of snow up in the elevations out there in Nevada where most of those cattle run. Can't get as many out of there as we thought we were going to have, but probably have a big sale in 2 weeks for the next feeder cattle special at Nevada Livestock Marketing. But a lot of snow up there in the elevations, and probably going to cause some flooding in that country whenever that starts melting at a rapid pace. But let's talk about your feeder cattle market, your real-time index on DV Auction. Late in the day on Wednesday, sitting at 161.34, and that's about steady. So we've gotten over not having anything in that index. We've got the kitty filled back up with cattle. Same thing happened with CME Cash Feeder Cattle Index. It's been tanking too, but it's not quite caught up in current. But 161.34, that's the average on 800-pound steers up through your middle 12 states there. Talk about your big sales on Wednesday. OKC West, El Reno, Oklahoma, about 7,000 head of cattle there. Compared to the last test, which was 3 weeks ago, week before Christmas, feeder steers were $2 to $4 lower, feeder heifers $1 to $3 higher, calves $4 to $8 higher, and spots $12 higher. But I thought the yearling market looked pretty good, especially on this one set. 60 head, 900-pound smooth yearling feeder steers in El Reno bring $160. That's a big price, guys. They don't bring any more than that when you get up further in the northern plains. How about winter livestock, Dodge City, Kansas? 5,500 head there. Now, they did have a sale 2 weeks ago, so compared to 2 weeks ago, feeders were steady to $3 higher. Calves were $8 to $10 higher, and had a really good sale there at Winter Livestock in Dodge City, Kansas. How about Bassett, Nebraska? Bassett Livestock Auction had 6,000 head. Now, they hadn't had a sale in about a month. But you look at this automated market report, and it's hard to call a trend that far apart, but look how well those cattle were selling in the big droves of them. But over 1,000 head of 5-weight steers up in Bassett. They'd all be fancy, averaging 557 pounds with a weighted average price of $196.07 on all of them, averaging over 5.5. Almost 1,700 6-weight steer calves in Bassett, averaging 652, at a weighted average price of $185.28 on all of them, and 1,338 head of your 7-weight steers in Bassett, Nebraska, averaged 737 with a weighted average price of $173.97. Pretty impressive quotes there. I got some other stick-out sales from all around the region. How about Springfield Livestock Marketing Center, Springfield, Missouri? DV Auction customer there. You can view and bid sales almost every day of the week there at Springfield. But they had 80 head, 631-pound steer calves, bring $181.50. Now, they were weaned, I did hear from Josh Ford, but pretty stick-out sale there in southwest Missouri. How about Texhoma Livestock Exchange? The western end of no man's land up there in the Oklahoma Panhandle had a nice sale, 2,500 head there, and new owner-manager there, Ashley Nolan, said they had a really good sale there. How about 64 head of local home-raised Charolais cross steers there, weighed 802 pounds and $166. That's a big-time price. Green City Livestock Marketing, another DV auction customer. You can view and bid their sales on Wednesdays. Green City Livestock Marketing in north central Missouri sold 66 head, 794 pound steers. That's scaring the heck out of 800 pounds at $171.35. But the best quote that I saw anywhere on Wednesday, your National Beef Wire top quote for the day, come out of Bassett, Nebraska, 186 head, 603 pound steer calves in Bassett bring 201.75. And that's your feeder flash for Thursday.